if you don't mind, we're going to get to the news. A picture gained attention online last week of President Trump standing still while a guest collapsed during an Oval Office event. Look at him. That's how I look waiting for the subway when two people are screaming at each other behind me. President Trump recapped former President Joe Biden's administration yesterday in a Truth Social post that he titled Auto Pen that began, quote, "Sleepy Joe Biden was by far the worst president in American history. Okay, man, I think it's time to retire Sleepy Joe. Bears don't sleep this well." A group of 8 Senate Democrats broke last night with party leadership to support an agreement that would fund the government through January and does not include an extension for enhanced Obamacare tax credits. God, they're so bad at this. It's like going to a car dealership, seeing it's $30,000 and saying, "I'll give you 50, but you have to sleep with my wife." President Trump attended the Washington Commanders Detroit Lions game yesterday, and Air Force One did a stadium flyover, so at least one plane took off this week. When asked yesterday, you guys all took the bus here? Everybody here took the bus? Okay. When asked yesterday during the Fox broadcast of the Washington Commanders game who his favorite team was, President Trump said, quote, "So I love the Jets and I love the Giants." Wow, you know, you can just say you don't like football. During the same game, President Trump said the country is doing great and added prices are coming way down, which is a hell of a thing to say to a crowd of people drinking $14 beers. President Trump posted a photo on Truth Social yesterday of the interior of the White House with an arrow pointing to a set of gold curtains with the caption, quote, "The main entrance to the new ballroom at the White House." So I guess thanks for the arrow. You know the only thing better than an arrow and making you look somewhere? Giant gold curtains. In a new interview, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said that if the government shutdown continues, a substantial number of people will miss celebrating the holidays with their families. To be fair, it will have negative effects, too. While speaking on Friday at a fundraiser for the Nebraska Democratic Party, former President Joe Biden criticized President Trump and said he had taken a, quote, "wrecking ball to the White House, the Constitution, and the rule of law." So, yeah, he's running. The head of the Tesla Cybertruck program announced yesterday that he is leaving the company. Great news if you work there, because that'll free up 2 parking spots. And finally, Taco Bell has begun offering a Baja Blast Pie Chiller, which features a slice of Baja Blast pie blended with vanilla ice cream and topped with whipped cream and churro crunch. That story again, weed is getting way too strong. That was a monologue, everybody. We've begun. We've got a great show tonight. He's a fantastic Oscar-nominated actor, you know, from films like Revolutionary Road and The Shape of Water, plus shows like Boardwalk Empire and 9 Perfect Strangers. He's currently starring in Nuremberg, which is in theaters now, as well as Death by Lightning on Netflix. Our friend Michael Shannon is back on the show. You know her from WandaVision and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as well as films such as Wind River and Ingrid Goes West. She's starring in Eternity, which is in theaters everywhere this Thanksgiving. Elizabeth Olsen will also be joining us. So happy she's back on the show and in person. Before we get to all that, polls have consistently shown that voters blame Donald Trump and the Republican Party for the government shutdown. Republicans are fighting with each other over Speaker Mike Johnson's refusal to produce a health care plan, as well as his decision to keep the House out of session. Americans overwhelmingly support the Democrats' push to keep health care costs down. Record numbers of people showed up for historic protests. The president's poll numbers are historically bad. He just got booed at a football game, and voters handed Democrats huge victories in Tuesday's election. So naturally, Senate Democrats looked at all of that and said, now is the time to cave. Oh, look, I just got a fundraising email from the Democrats that said, "Seth, this is urgent. Can you chip in $5? We promise to do jack with it." All right, but this is the last time for more, and this is time for a closer look. I don't have to tell you, it's rare for Democrats to put Donald Trump in a bind. Usually it's the other way around. Seeing Democrats make life difficult for Trump is like seeing the president of the AV club give the school bully a noogie. Or a Hertz donut. Remember that? When kids would go up to each other and say, want a Hertz donut? And if someone said yes, they would punch the other kid in the arm and say, Hertz donut? Of course. Oh, that never worked on me, as even as a child, I was a bit of an amateur linguist. So when I was asked if I wanted a Hertz donut, I said, Hertz, the rental car company, does not make donuts to my knowledge. And yet I can't help but notice that Hertz is a homophone for hurts, meaning causing physical pain. It also has dawned on me that donut sounds close to don't it, at which point they told me to shut the up and punch me in the arm anyway. Be that as it may, they didn't trick me into asking for it. The point is, it's rare for Democrats to get the upper hand over Trump, and when they do, it seems like it's completely by accident. They get the upper hand the same way Shaggy ends up solving the mystery. But in the last week or so, it seemed like they had finally done it with the government shutdown.
A new poll from NBC News shows more registered voters place the blame for the shutdown on President Trump and the Republicans.
New CNN poll shows that Donald Trump has never been more unpopular than he is right now.
The votes are in. It was a decisive night for Democrats in the first major election since President Trump took office.
Last night, it was, not expected to be a victory. It was very Democrat areas, but I don't think it was good for Republicans. I think if you read the pollsters, the shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republicans.
Do you know how bad something has to be for Trump to admit that it was bad? This is a guy who chooses to leave the house looking like this. He checked the mirror and he was like, we're good to go. But even he had to admit the Republicans got crushed on Tuesday. In fact, things have been going so bad for Trump. He got booed this weekend, but it must have been, at a Whole Foods on the Upper West Side, right? Oh, a green energy convention in Provincetown? No? Well, where was it then? Oh, a football game. Oh, no.
Football fans could be heard booing President Trump during his appearance at the Lions and Commanders game. The crowd loudly booed as Trump was introduced and shown on the Jumbotron during halftime.
I have watched a lot of football. I've never seen anyone get booed this badly, not even Left Shark. I don't want to burn Left Shark too badly. Saw him aimlessly dancing along the highway this weekend. Still no idea where he's supposed to be or what he's supposed to be doing. I'd also like to note that the Jets won this week. That means Donald Trump had a worse NFL Sunday than the Jets. By the way, Trump was there to enlist new military recruits, and he still got booed. And I will say, if you're going to give a speech in a stadium full of 50,000 people, try to avoid doing ones with this line. It just reminds people about all your trials. I will just say that as much as I enjoyed the booing, I actually enjoyed this angle of fans flipping off the president from their seats even more. I mean, he's getting flipped off by both Lions fans and Commander fans. He finally did it. He brought the country together. The only two things that have ever united fans at a football game like this are booing Donald Trump and cheering when the Pop-Tarts mascot is lowered to his death in a giant toaster. It was really sad. When he came out, he looked like this. By the way, all those people booing Trump thinks what they're really clamoring for is a new stadium with his name on it.
President Trump is reportedly gunning for the new Washington Commanders football stadium to be named, wait for it, after him. A senior White House official told ESPN there have been back-channel conversations with the team's owners expressing Trump's desire to have the future domed stadium bear his name.
All right, but if you have a dome stadium named after Donald Trump, it should at least have to have his dome. Of course, then when it's windy, it's going to be a huge problem. Point is, Democrats had finally backed Trump into a corner. Polls showed voters were on their side, and then just when it seemed like they'd finally turned the tables, they buckled.
Breaking news out of Washington, D.C., where the U.S. Senate is voting on a bipartisan deal to end the longest government shutdown in the country's history. This deal comes after a group of at least 8 Democrats agreed to reopen the government in exchange for a future vote on extending health care subsidies.
It's the Democratic side, or at least enough Democrats in the Senate, that are essentially caving.
Democrats are united as the party of lower health care costs and improving our health care system. We will not give up this fight.
But that's what you're doing. You're giving up the fight. You can't wave a white flag in one hand that says, I give up, while in the other hand waving a smaller white flag that says, until next time. But you heard him, Democrats are not giving up. Now, I'm sure you think caving to Republicans without any meaningful concessions constitutes giving up, but that's because you're not an expert on politics like Chuck Schumer is. You're playing checkers. He's playing chess, and he's playing it slowly. He's not playing it to win. He's playing until his opponent falls asleep, which, by the way, literally just happened last week. Yeah, that is the president asleep on live television during an Oval Office press conference. The same Oval Office press conference where someone fainted, and then Trump just stood there like the only character in a play who can talk to the audience. I'll never forget the day Gordon fell. Pa said he wasn't gonna make it, and Ma made that special pie that always cheered me up. Also, shout out to RFK Jr. for his quick reaction when someone passed out in the Oval Office, in case you missed it. Now that's a Shaggy. Yoinks! It's like someone said, we need a doctor, and he thought, oh, I'm the furthest thing from a doctor. And if you're curious what was being said while Trump fell asleep, it couldn't be more perfect if we created it with AI.
These drugs will not cost us money. The American taxpayers will be getting their money back. That's how important it is for us to reduce the costs of healthcare in this country, especially when it's due to preventable problems like obesity. But I don't measure it in pounds. I measure it in saved lives. People can sleep again.
Yeah, we can see that. Did the president fall asleep on purpose or as a demonstration? This is like a pharmaceutical ad. I have expected that to be written in cursive under Trump while Dr. Oz was saying it.
People can sleep again.
Democrats, are you seeing this? Why are you caving to this guy? In a span of like 5 days, he got crushed in elections, got booed at a football game, fell asleep in a meeting, and you guys saw that and thought, there's no way we can beat this guy. He's at the top of his game. I mean, I'm terrified of my wife, but once she falls asleep, I'm turning off her dumb movie and turning on the Knicks games. But Democrats actually seem to think Trump had somehow won the shutdown fight.
You have to go back to what the strategy was at the beginning of the shutdown. There were two goals, both of which I support. One was standing up to Donald Trump. The other was getting some resolution on the ACA premium tax credit issue. The problem was the shutdown wasn't accomplishing either goals, so standing up to Donald Trump didn't work.
What do you mean it didn't work? Aren't his poll numbers at an all-time low? Didn't you just win a bunch of elections, or did I hallucinate all of that? Now, I will admit there is a chance I hallucinated that, because on the day of the elections, I was at a sweat lodge in Arizona doing ayahuasca with my spirit guide, Esteban. And yes, I was there with RFK Jr. We disagree on almost everything, but we do love three things: Esteban, ayahuasca, and working out shirtless in blue jeans. But, thank you. When did you guys sneak in and take that? Usually they use like the Chris Evans before he takes the super soldier serum. But it's not all bad news. If you listen to Angus King, Democrats actually did get something in return for caving.
There never was an end game if the initial strategy didn't work. And now we have one. We're going to have, as I say, a guaranteed vote on the ACA. And it may not succeed. I grant that. But a reasonable chance, 10, 20%, 30%, is a lot better than 0%, which is where we were as of yesterday morning.
You guys cave for a 10% chance of success? You're supposed to be senators, not Lloyd Christmas. Also, I hate to break it to you, but it's still 0%. You and I know this Republican Party is not going to work with Democrats, and yet some Democrats are still capable of deluding themselves into thinking cooperation is possible.
Leader Thune said he would come to the table on a health care once the government was open, and now he must follow through. I expect Republicans to be at the table in the next few weeks. I expect the White House to be at the table.
I believe there are a number of Republicans who are going to join us in trying to address healthcare costs for Americans. We've heard from a number of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle that they're willing to come to the table, they're willing to work with us once the government's open to get this done. We've heard the same thing from the White House.
Oh my God, you did? Well, I didn't know you heard it from the White House. Wait, did you hear it from the East Wing? Because that might have just been demolition noise. No, it came straight from the Oval Office Bar and Grill. That's right, they heard it straight from the White House. And if you can't trust this president to keep his word, who can you trust? Don't laugh. And if there's one thing we know about Donald Trump, it's that his word is his bond. Why are you laughing? He's an honorable man of decency and integrity. Come on, guys, stop laughing. When he tells you he'll do something, you can take that to the bank. Well, I'm sorry, you know what? I just realized I accidentally replaced my water with ayahuasca. Esteban, you can't leave this stuff lying around. I knew something was wrong when I looked over at Wally and he was a furry purple guy in a top hat. It's absurd to expect Republicans to pass a Democratic health care bill. And you don't need to take that from me. Take it from the Republicans themselves.
Will you assure the House members that they'll get a vote, House Democrats, that they'll get a vote on ACA subsidies by date certain?
No, because we did our job, and I'm not part of the negotiation. The House did its job on September 19th. I'm not promising anybody anything.
Of course, Democrats heard that and said, so you're telling me there's a chance? Look, no one likes a shutdown, but this is the worst way to cave. Democrats had Trump on the ropes. Voters were on their side. Trump was getting booed, losing elections, and holding press conferences in the Oval Office so he could
Sleep again.
This has been a closer look.